The following is brought to you by Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. TotalSeal.com. Hello and welcome to another edition of Hidden Horsepower presented by Total Seal Piston Rings. I'm Joe Castello, and this is one of my favorite endeavors, the Q&A episode with Keith Jones. That's right, the Director of Technical Sales for Total Seal Piston Rings. This season of racing is just about concluded here in 2024, getting ready for the PRI trade show and the winter break. And I know a lot of people are going to have questions. Keith, time to answer some. How are you doing?
We're doing great. We always talk about the weather. So the weather finally broke here in Arizona. It's no longer as hot as the Hades thing going on here. So we can actually go outside and not catch on fire. It's beautiful.
Very nice. And how many days over 100 degrees consecutive? Was it like 400 or something?
Yeah, it was like 400, 450. I'll say this: it broke every record known ever since recorded data began. It's been a pretty brutal summer, but we're glad that it's finally wound down and we can enjoy some cooler weather and actually go outside. And I was on vacation recently, and all that spent just doing all the things I couldn't do all summer. So it was like, hey, where'd you go? What'd you do? I was at home doing all the stuff I haven't been able to do for the last 4 months.
Oh, staycation. You didn't even go anywhere.
Yeah. No, I got a lot of honeydews to take care of.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, you know, the racing season is busy because everyone is out racing and they're competing and they're trying to win championships and they're making the most of what they've got as best as they can to keep it going. The winter break, as we call it in the NHRA drag racing world, because there's no such thing as an off season, is where you get set up again for next year, and you're refreshing, you're trying to find power, you're trying to get things right for 2025. I would imagine this is a pretty busy time of the year as people start to call you and float plans, figure out what they can get, what's the newest, latest, greatest. Is now the start of next year for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. This is what I call specking season. Everybody is doing exactly what you just said, Joe. It's like they're on the phone. Hey, I'm going to run this class. I'm going to do that class. I want to do this. I got to freshen it up. I got to bump it out 4,000s. What do you have? It is that time of the year. Everybody wants to know what they need to be doing for next year. What can they get their hands on? What's going to be better for what I'm doing? Whether it's from, pulling trucks to drag cars, circle track, it is specking season. It is on.
And it is perfect time for a, FAQ, frequently asked questions, or question and answer session. And I know you get a lot of questions out there. We haven't done one of these for a while. Getting ready for PRI, good opportunity to shorten those lines a little bit by answering some questions here on the show, either on Facebook or on our YouTube channel or the podcast, which is my favorite way to get this show. Let's dive right into it, right? This is not going to be a long one, but we're going to knock out a couple of questions. I know you have some already that you get on a regular basis. Let's throw them out there and talk a little bit about them.
Yeah, we'll hit it. Like you say, I think we did an FAQ session, long time ago, but it was audio only before we started doing the video stuff. So I'll start off. Probably the number one question that we get on an everyday basis, and it's a real simple question. What's the right ring for what I'm doing? And that is not an easy question to answer. So we need to know details. We need to, we always say, go to the website, drop us an email, look me up, look up the other guys. We've got the general request a ring form. Give us as much detail as you can. Let us know what it is, what kind of block you're working on. Is this air cooled, water cooled, alcohol, gasoline, turbo, nitrous, blower, all of the above. And tell us, the end of that is really, what is it you want out of it? What do you want to do with this thing? Are we a street car and it's dual purpose? We're doing a drag and drive thing. We're going to have a blower on it, but we're only going to be at 30 pound of boost 1% of the time. Give us those details and we'll help you to pick out the right ring package to make sure you get the best thing. Could I just say, just go to our AP ring set? That's a great ring set. That'll do you. Yeah, it is a great ring set, but is it exactly the right set for you? The more you can tell me about it, the more we can drill down, hone in on what is exactly the set that is going to be what you need it to be and give you what you want out of it. What is it you want out of this thing? You're looking to gas mileage, you want to cut friction, you're trying to get 50 miles a gallon, or are we trying to get the absolute ultimate ring seal because this thing makes 50,000 horsepower. I mean, tell us those details, and we'll do everything we can to make sure you get exactly what you need. But that's our number one question.
Is it for competition? Is it for driving down the road? Like if you're in a competitive situation and there are rules, right? Like that, like the rule book says these 5 things. I want to go compete in, SCCA, and I can only do these things to my engine, et cetera, and so on. That has got to be very important to what ring set goes in the engine.
Oh, hugely. This is the challenge. And one of my favorite challenges is those kinds of classes of racing. NHRA stock. I love working with a stocker guy because here's those rules. Here's what we've got to do. What can we do within that rule package to find that gray area to keep it legal? And, because I want to do a legal ring package, but what can we do to absolutely optimize this? Not only from a friction reduction point of view, again, to think about those kinds of engines, a normally aspirated engine, how do I seal it better on the intake stroke? We've talked about this before. I can have the best heads, the best cam, the best piston, the best looking valve covers on the planet, but how do I make it seal better on the intake stroke? How do I make it pull more air, pull more fuel? How do I pack more into that cylinder? Because the more I can put in that cylinder, the more power potential I have in that engine. And that's all about ring seal on the intake stroke. Now, we toss a blower or a turbo, we pressurize that cylinder. Well, it's going in. Now we got to look at other things. But on an NA motor, it is the ring's job to pull all that air and all that fuel. Gravity is only going to get you so far. So let's not just talk about ring friction reductions, things like that. How do we seal it better on all 4 cycles?
All right. So the most possible detail for the application, the beginning, to help you decide exactly what ring is right for you. What's next?
Absolutely. Next thing is going to be, guys call up all the time about where their end gaps need to be. So that's something that we'll just say gets a little over thought about sometimes. I'll say this about end gaps. We do supply a gapping chart. It is pretty damn accurate. So you can follow that gapping chart. It's a bore times rule. So it may say bore X 0.0045. Now, most of these rules that are based on water-cooled engines, cast iron blocks, gasoline, there are some exceptions that are listed there. So if you've got something that's a little off the wall, one of the things I like to talk about is, let's say, these crazy diesel guys, 250 pounds of boost, 5,000 horsepower. I'll say this, we manufacture parts. We want to give you as much information to go by as possible. Have I done a lot of dyno work on one of those to figure out the optimum end gap? No, I'd be lying if I told you otherwise. So let's look at the history of that engine. Let's listen to that engine. Let's mark those end gaps when we file them, put them in, run them, bring them back apart, look at them, record that data, record that history. I'll drop a name on a guy that, has been on the show a couple times. Gary Stinnett, great guy, good friend, good customer. Gary's a data junkie. I mean, he's going to tell you everything about every engine that ever came through his shop. He's got data on everything. He spends as much time taking one apart as he does putting one together, looking at every little nuance. And having that kind of data to go back is going to tell you more about where your end gaps need to be on especially special engines like that, more so than I can. So look at that data. Keep that data down. If you're using our 4.5 thou per rule on an NA gasoline engine and you take it apart and every time it's beautiful, well, that's telling you, well, maybe you could go just a little bit tighter. But if you're seeing the other side, maybe you need to go a little bit bigger. With that said, it's always better to err on the bigger side than the tighter side. End gap, the butts is going to be a problem. This can be an engine that wipes things out in a heartbeat. So if you're ever, you're on the weekend, you're putting one together, you're like, oh, geez, should I be 22 or should I be 24? Go 24. Little loose is always safe. And at the same time, if you go a little big on an end gap on a ring, it's nothing to freak out about. Mondays, we get all these phone calls from all the guys on the weekend that overfile a little bit. And I'll get guys that, I'm not picking on them in any way, but they overfiled a ring 2000s. They're losing sleep over it. They're going to overnight air parts. Guys, this is nothing to worry about. It's not going to hurt a thing. If you overfiled it 10,000, 20,000, well, yeah, we might not replace it a little bit. Probably a good idea, but a couple of thousands, a handful, a little big, not going to hurt a thing. So don't sweat that, but pay attention to the chart. If you've got an exotic application, aluminum block, air cooled on nitromethane, yeah, maybe we need to talk. You're doing something that's a little out of our normal gapping chart information. So you might want to reach out to us and talk about that application a little bit.
I feel the pain of the person who has overfiled their rings. They got there putting together their engine. They're super excited about it. They're working on and just a bit too much. I think we've all had that moment. And what have I done? Have I destroyed my engine, Keith? And the answer is no.
Absolutely not. No, that's a common Monday phone call. I'll just say that they really they get a little wound up about it, and it's like they're like I say, we're spending $150 overnight airing, an oil ring rail. Hey guys, you're going to be okay. They'll run a little looser than you think. I have a customer years ago that was doing a cup engine type program, and his customer wanted to see how far they could go on the end gaps. And very honestly, they started off at 18,000 end gap, 4185 bore cup style engine, and kept up in the end gaps 2,000 at a time to see where things went. And started off at 18. At about 26,000 end gap, they started seeing the blow by numbers going up. At 28,000, so 10 over their initial target, now we're starting to see some things happening. By 30, oh yeah, something's going on. By 32, it wanted to knock the valve covers off of it. So you got a little bit of latitude there. Am I saying to put them in, way too big? No, but again, don't sweat it. You're a little big, it's not going to hurt a thing.
Don't sweat it. All right, Q&A with Keith Jones, the Director of Technical Sales for Total Seal Piston Rings. What else you got, Keith? Another FAQ.
Another one is, and we've talked about this so many times on the air and off the air and all those other places, is cylinder finish. What cylinder finish do I need, for my engine? Again, that's a mixed bag. That's a loaded question. That's really, if you want to call us and talk to us, hey, glad to do it. If you want to email it, kind of like we talked before, give us a little time to absorb it. Look at all the details. What fuel, iron block, aluminum block, air cooled, water cooled, NA, turbo, blower, nitrous, again, all of the above. Let us know that kind of information. And we'll be able to give you those details, what that bore finish needs to be. Because again, there is no one size fits all. Generally, when we're talking about bore finishes, again, we come back to, we're generally talking about, measured numbers, on a profilometer. We love to talk measured numbers. Let's see if that thing came on. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that or not. It's a little glary in here, but we love to talk about measured numbers. But not everybody has one of these. Not every machine shop has one of these. So if you want to talk grits, and I always say grits are something you cook on a stove in Alabama. If you want to talk grits, we need a little detail. What kind of equipment is your machine shop using? Sun and Rottler, Winona, Gehring. What are they using for a machine? Because it's not all the same. A 280 grit stone vitrified from Sunnin doesn't necessarily cut the same as that 280 grit vitrified stone from Rottler or Goodson or Lyle. We need to know a little bit more about what they're actually using. What machine is it? What kind of an abrasive is it? Is it a vitrified stone? Are we dealing with a diamond? Are we dealing with a CBN? If you can give us that detail and have that ready before you call us, because I'm going to ask you that question on the phone and you're going to go, I don't know. Okay. Now you got to go find out. If you have all that information up front, or if you're not comfortable with it, have your machine guy call us. Take you out of the link, put us with him directly or her, and we'll try to give that information to you. But bore finish is the next one. It's a real big topic. It's there. It's important, and we want to talk about it. But it's always best to have as much information together before you reach out to us.
And for those that are interested, and I think of all the episodes that we have done with Lake from the Engine Performance Expo and every conversation we've had, the profilometer is mandatory. And if you're an engine builder, you need to have this tool, and they are available at Total Seal for sale, is probably the number one thing.
Absolutely. Between profilometers and, Malberg's Trace Boss Plus, which is absolutely phenomenal stuff. If you haven't seen it, you haven't heard about it, I would think every man and woman on the planet would. Lake's done such a great job of getting that information out there. If not, check us out. Check out Digital Metrology. That's Mark's website. Incredibly good detailed information. But what all this is talking about is this. Okay, this is a 3D printed version of a cast iron cylinder bore that somebody went in and did a single stage of hone to. So if you kind of look at it that way, you can see all those peaks, all those rough points, all of that peak area and valley area. Rings don't like this surface on the top. We call this RPK. This is the rough surface that the ring has to wear down during the initial break-in. This is the junk you see in your pan after you run the engine. This is the junk, and hopefully only this junk, that you find in the oil filter after you've been breaking it in. But we don't want this. Rings don't like this. And the faster and sooner we can get rid of this and turn it into this, which is a beautifully plateaued surface, nice, level, no peaks. I should say no peaks, very few peaks, lots of valleys for good oil retention. This is what we want to have coming out of your machine shop or out of your garage if you're doing it yourself. Very, very important. This gives you right now ring seal. This is what happens quickly and doesn't take 30, 40 runs to get it to come in, or 2 hours on the track running it in, or 50 hits on the dyno, or 5,000 miles on the street. You get this, you're going to be sealed up right now.
Excellent. All right, let's get to our next question. We've talked about rings. We've talked about end gap. We've talked about cylinder finish. What is next of the questions that you get on a regular basis?
Well, going on that same vein, what oil should I use? Okay. All of, to take this and turn it into this, I've got to have friction. You look inside an engine, and every single component in an engine loves an anti-friction product in the oil. They love low drag surface. Rings, again, trying to get a grip on it, need friction to turn this into this. So it's a very important thing that you use a proper break-in oil, meaning it's got the right additive package. It's not a high anti-friction oil. We want to make sure, and I'm quoting Lake here, that it's got a good anti-scuff characteristic, not too much anti-friction characteristic. There's a lot of chemistry that can go in an oil that is great for anti-friction, but not happy for rings. One of them I'll put up is molybdenum, moly. I see so many break-in oils that have so much moly in them, the rings won't come in. I have a very good sprint car customer called me up. He's 13, 15 poles on the dyno trying to get the rings to come in. The oil that he used to use, he can't get anymore. Engine's in 3 hits. What's the difference? The moly content. The new oil he's using has got a very high moly content, which is great for flat tappet cams, but he isn't running flat tappet cams. It's a roller. So why are we running that oil? We need to get the right break-in oil in it that doesn't have too much anti-friction compound. And I hooked him up with a company that we deal with. I guess I'm putting a plug in HPL out of Illinois. These guys know their business. Their stuff is awesome. He got with HPL, put that oil in there, bang, 3 hits, it's back in.
Just like that. What kind of oil for break-in? What kind of oil for regular usage? All those details matter and very important. I can see, I can feel, I hope everybody else out there can do it too, that you're getting something off your chest here, Keith. You're maybe going to change your Monday morning ritual to, here's a YouTube link to this show where you can get a bunch of questions answered. What's next?
Absolutely. So again, another common one, and this goes back decades. This goes back way before I ever worked here. And trust me, folks, if I tie these down, I can't talk. So just get used to it. Can you run gas ports with a gapless ring? I get this all the time. And at the same time, can you run a gapless ring with nitrous? I get all the time. What we're known for is the gapless piston ring. That's where we began in 1967. And it's a common question. Oh, you can't run that gapless ring with gas ports. Why not? Gas port's just there to get gas pressure behind the ring to help gas activate it. That's its job. The whole point about gas pressure, rings gas activate. Gas porting is used when that vertical clearance, that clearance between the ring and the groove itself, becomes so tight that I can't get enough gas pressure behind there to gas activate the ring. That's what gas porting is all about. It's not about gapless rings or conventional rings. It's not about that. It's about getting enough gas loading to blow that ring out against the cylinder wall. Now, if we're running really loose ring-to-ring groove clearances, we've got 2,000s, 3,000s clearance between the ring and the land, well, you're not going to need it. It's just not necessary. It's going to get gas pressure behind it. When we start tightening that clearance up, 1,002, 1,000, 8/10, 6/10, stuff like that, and even tighter, you're never going to get enough gas pressure behind that ring without a way to get that pressure back there, hence the gas port. So yeah, you can run a gas ported piston with a gapless ring. They love it. They absolutely love it. Can you run a gapless ring with nitrous? 100%. I think it's one of the best rings you can run on it. Why? especially for the dual purpose guys like the drag and drive guys. Here's an application, whether it's nitrous, blower, turbo, whatever, that 1% of the time the thing is set on kill. The rest of the time they're driving to the next event. I got to set all the clearances in the engine, including the end gap to the ring, for that 1% of the time. What happens the 99% of the rest of the time? It's got blow by because it's got 40 thousandths end gap on the ring while you're tooling down the road. It's not happy. It's got stuff coming out the valve cover. It's doing all kinds of nasty stuff. Put a gapless ring in it. Gap it big. Forget about it. Put the gapless in it. Set it. Forget it. It is the go-to ring, especially on a dual purpose application. It is the absolute cure for that application where that gap's got to be big, but I only need it to be big 1% of the time. The gapless is the solution. But I'll say this also, speaking about gas ports, one of the things that we have done, and sorry, I got junk laying all around in here.
Oh, we can tell. You
can tell. And this is clean. This is organized. You should see it the rest of the time. That is our gas ported piston ring. You can see those gas slots that are actually in the ring. The gas ported ring does an incredibly good job. This allows gas pressure to get behind the ring, get that tightened up, especially in the power and stuff, and is very handy if you're buying a kit piston that doesn't have gas ports. You go buy, let's say, one of the pistons from Summit, doesn't have gas ports in it, but you're building a turbo LS. Easy fix. You need gas ports. Buy our gas ported piston ring. That solves the issue right there. You don't have to rework the piston. Simply put the gas ported ring in it. It's done. This is a very, very good tool. It works outstanding. But the next question I get, and it's kind of like the gapless and the gas port, can I run the gas ported ring with a gas ported piston? Hell yeah, you can. It works phenomenal. I've got big Pro Mod cars that have been running gas ported piston for years. We've combined it with the gas ported top ring. Absolutely phenomenal ring seal. We're getting even more gas pressure behind it to get this thing sealed up so you can absolutely combine a gas ported ring with a gas ported piston. They work fantastic.
Can you give an example? And I'm setting you up, and maybe you don't have this answer, and I apologize in advance, but of something you can't do. Like we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this, and you're getting these questions on a regular basis. But is there something that comes to mind where you would tell people, no, don't do that?
Absolutely. No, it's funny. I queried the other guys, on the FAQ thing, and one of our guys, August Cedarstrand, some of you that, used to deal with the Edelbrock guys, just think of, a 6'8" walking tree trunk, and you'll remember August. He's a great guy, but he's huge, big Viking. One of them that he brought up was LS, never. So one of the things that you deal with engines and where blow by can become helpful is an engine that's got a lot of windage in it. And the early LSs, the original LS ones, they're known for having windage problems in the engine. GM boring hole through the main webs and doing all kinds of things to get better cylinder balance, in the engine. Blow by can aid in oil control. So we're pressurizing the ring pack and trying to push oil down the board. So think about it as like a vacuum pump in the other direction, pushing down instead of pulling down. So early LSs are very susceptible, and meaning in a bad way, to the gapless ring. They will oil at an idle. So if it's a race car, dry sump, doing all that stuff, absolutely no issue. But street cars, and we've talked about this before, the street is the absolute most difficult environment to control. It's got to sit and idle at a stop sign. It's got a cruise part throttle going on the freeway. It's got an engine brake coming down Mount Hood. It's got to do all these things that make intake manifold vacuum, and intake vacuum is looking for oil. So in an engine that's susceptible to a windage problem where it's got such a blender going on the bottom end, it won't let the oil dry down out of the cylinder. Having a little blow by pressure in the engine actually aids in that oil control. So like August said in his email to me, I would not put a gapless top ring in a street driven early LS in the LS1 engine. They are known for burning oil. So that'd be a place where I would say no. And I've had customers ask me that. Same thing with the early 4.6 mod motors. They've got windage issues. And unless you address those issues and you put a gapless ring in it, it's more than likely going to smoke in an idle. And nobody wants that. So those are a couple of applications where I would tell a customer no.
Excellent. I love the fact that it's not all just, yes, we can do it, that there are certain things that will not work out. All right, we've got time for one more, maybe two. If you've got something that is a common question that you get on a regular basis from the people who are calling you on Mondays, working on their engines, put it out there.
Well, we get a lot of questions about, again, end gaps, piston to walls, things like that. Oil ring tension, a lot of questions about oil ring tension all the time. How much is too much? How much is not enough? So, in street car stuff, again, keeping in mind, we like to see reductions in friction. We want all that, but always keep in mind the environment. And we start putting real thin, real lightweight ring packs. Let's say you go out and buy a kit that's got, a real thin, real lightweight ring pack, and you put it in your 350 Chevy that, you put a high volume oil pump in it. Oh, and we stroked it to a 383. So we got the piston hanging up. We've got a less than desirable, environment for all this to live in. And then we add an 8-pound oil ring to it. Guess what, folks? It's going to burn oil. It's got so much oil flying around, too much stroke, lots of problems, and an 8-pound oil ring. So if it's street driven, always try to put as much oil ring tension in it as you can. Very, very important. I wouldn't put a street car together with less than a 15-pound oil ring in it. We want to keep it dry. You want to keep it happy. It's not to say that you can't get away with it, but you're playing Russian roulette with it when you do. I have a very good friend of mine here in town. Did a 347 Ford 2-millimeter oil ring. I told him right out of the box. I said, "This thing's going to burn oil. It's got an 8-pound oil ring, and it's not enough." No, it'll be fine. They know what they're doing. And guess what came back out of the car and got taken apart and a new oil ring put in? That oil ring. We put a 15-pounder in it. Guess what? Dry as a bone. So that's a common question. What kind of oil ring tension? So street stuff, always air to the high side. To find 1 or 2 horsepower to that oil ring and run into the chances of it burning oil, not worth the chance. So air to the high side. It's just going to keep it dry, keep it safe. A dry engine's a happy engine. Now it's dry sump, pull and vacuum, all that stuff. Well, yeah, let's take advantage of that. See how light we can go. But again, street's a whole different environment. That's a whole different beast that we're trying to tame.
If my friend works at Total Seal and he tells me something, I'm kind of listening. And I don't mean this as an insult to anybody, but come on, listen to Keith Jones' friend. You got to listen to him.
Yep.
Don't you?
We'll just say I have all the respect for all of my friends and all the people that I deal with. We're not saying we know it all. We don't. We're not that way. But this is what we do all day, every day. And we get a lot of customer feedback. We get a lot of response from a lot of people. Hey, this worked great. This didn't work so great. And we want to pass that on. So, if we give you a recommendation, hey, you might want to consider it.
I agree. All right. I think that has been a great episode of Hidden Horsepower. We've answered some questions. Is there any final question that you would like to put out there to the audience that is a must for this FAQ episode, where we will be directing people, and I know everybody is going to go and watch to learn about, the basics of what they need before they call you, or maybe after they have already called you? Is there any one final question that must be included in this episode?
Well, it's not really so much a question, Joe, as it is a comment, and things that help us. And we are coming into the busy time of the year. So, folks, I'll just say this, and I've been through this a couple times a day. There is no universal database out there for all things worth knowing. So try to have all your information together before you pick up the phone. If you're reordering an old order, try to have your old order number. If we can find it, pick it up. Oh, hey, here's what you did. We'll send that right out to you. Or you've got an engine you're working on. Try to know what you got. Bore size, ring groove sizes. The more information that you can present us at the time of contact is just going to make everything flow smoother, get you in, get you out, get you off the phone, get us onto the next phone call, try to help the next person out. Having that information together is very, very helpful to us. But at the same time, ask questions. Ask your engine guy. Don't just take everything, hey, he said, ask us that stuff. But if you can, try to have as much information together as you can before you reach out to us or when you reach out to us. That just makes everything go a whole lot smoother. And we do appreciate that, because we're not a mountain of people. We're a handful of people trying to answer a lot of phone calls and help everybody out. But the other thing I wanted to bring is, this was a quick FAQ. Bottom line, email myself, reach out to Joe. I'm asking the question, what do you want to know? Let's do a show based on what you want to know, what I didn't answer, what we didn't answer here. Let's throw that out. We didn't touch on diesels. Can we do a gas ported top ring in a diesel? Hell yeah, they work great. Gapless second rings work phenomenal in a diesel. Gas porting that Keystone top ring, unbelievable how well it works. Throw us your questions. Ask us the stuff that you want to know, because I only know what I know. I can't answer you unless you ask me.
Tremendous job once again. Keith Jones, he's the director of technical sales of Total Seal Piston Rings. Keith, if they want to get a hold of you guys, what should they do?
Go to the website, totalseal.com. You can call us on the toll-free 800-874-2753. If you go through the website, there's emails, questions there, request a ring, information questions. You email me, all the rest of the guys. We want your questions. We want to answer you. But like I said just a moment ago, I don't know what you want to know. So ask the question.
Just like that. Keith, tremendous job as usual. Thank you so much.
Always glad to help you guys. And I know there's some races coming up this weekend, so we're going to see some championships decided.
That's it. And then the race in the winter break will begin.
And not to keep going on, I threw it up. I come from drag racing, as everybody knows. I've driven dragsters. Joe got to drive Bo's dragster. What a great experience. How's Project Pontiac coming along, Joe?
Project Pontiac. Wow, a little personal stuff here. Project Pontiac, we're on the 2-yard line. We are getting ready to dyno test. Gary Stinnett Automotive, the folks at Foggett have been helping out. Edelbrock gave us some cylinder heads and an intake manifold. Keith Wilson took the intake manifold, Wilsonified it, and now it's getting ready to go on the dyno the end of November. I've got the chassis at home. NHRA has released their divisional schedule. The first race is at Speed World Dragway in Orlando, February 21st, 22nd, first of 3 races in a row. Baby Gators right after that. We're trying desperately to make that, and that will be Project Pontiac on track. We do have some targets we'd love to hit, horsepower and torque numbers. Not going to release those just yet, but Keith, it's been amazing. You guys, Total Seal, have been a tremendous help. People behind the scenes who have been so helpful. Just so many people from, John Gaydosh to Chris Straub Technologies, the folks at Rottler, everybody supplying help and assistance and brain power, and Lake with the cylinder surface and all of these things. But now it's real, right? Like engine coming together, dyno date set, going out, flying to Kansas for this whole deal. We're going to record it for WFO radio. It's going to be amazing, but also very nerve-wracking and anxiety-inducing, as anyone who has stood in a dyno cell knows.
Yeah, it can be a little scary, but it can also be a lot of fun. I would just say I love spending some time on the dyno. It's an exciting day.
Well, we are going to document it all on my WFO radio podcast, and we'll definitely talk about it here. It was such a big part of the Engine Performance Expo as well. I've got people who I don't know, who don't follow my show, don't know me from NHRA. They know about Project Pontiac and all the people who have helped out because of the Engine Performance Expo and little casual conversations just like this. Keith, I appreciate you bringing it up. It's going to be interesting, and it's going to be great. And at some point I'll be back on track, which that's even going to be more fun. Thank you for asking.
I'm looking forward to seeing you out there. Really am. It's going to be a great time.
He is Keith Jones, and we'll see you at PRI. Do we have any pre-PRI notes we want to drop out there?
Just come by and see us. We've got we're gonna have some special. We're gonna have some show specials. So come by and talk about that. And then, like we just talked about, bring your questions. You got parts you want us to look at. You want us to diagnose this, look at that. Hey, stop by, come and see us. We're going to be there. Bells on our toes. Looking forward to seeing you. And we'll just say, keep your COVID at home.
Yes. Hopefully that is in the past. I'm all good to go. Keith, great job as usual. Thank you so much. Anytime.
Thanks again, Joe. Really appreciate it.
He is Keith Jones, the director of technical sales for Total Seal Piston Rings on Castello. Find out more, subscribe, click the bell, give them a call, totalseal.com. Thank you once again.